Last cycle just felt very textbook perfect, like there were very specific follicles at specific sizes, and this time it was just kind of a mess in there. I'm kind of scared that this cycle might be a complete loss. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm starting a new cycle vlog. This is cycle 14 of trying to conceive baby number 2. I did vlog last cycle, it was cycle 13, and it was the very first one that I've ever vlogged because it was my first medicated cycle. So I did do Clomid, days 5 through 9, 50 milligrams. I did vlog the entire process, and I did do a live pregnancy test at the end, and it was negative. In that video, you can tell I'm incredibly heartbroken, and I didn't know if I wanted to film the next cycle. You guys have no idea how much the comments on that video meant to me. The reason I posted that video is because I knew that all of the emotions I was feeling are something that a lot of women go through, and they go through very privately, and they're ashamed to talk about. And I wanted people to know that it is something that a lot of women go through, and it's heartbreaking. It's so hard. That's why I'm vlogging this again, you know? Cheers to a new cycle. Maybe this will be the one. I did talk to my doctor, and I have been put on another cycle of Clomid 50 milligrams days 5 through 9. So I'm basically going to be doing the exact same thing, because last month really was a perfect storm in terms of the way my body reacted to Clomid. I do ovulate on my own, and I did conceive my first son, James, completely naturally, but Clomid can cause you to ovulate more than one egg, giving you more chances of one of those eggs being good and sticking. So I did have 3 mature follicles last cycle. However, I did not get pregnant. The cycle did not stick. I have started looking into fertility clinics here in the Nashville area. I haven't found one that I feel really strongly about working with. If you live in the Nashville area and you've worked with a fertility clinic and you've been happy with them, I would love it if you would DM me on Instagram and recommend me a place, because I don't really know where to start. It's cycle day 5. I just took my very first day of Clomid. So you take Clomid days 5 through 9. I know there is a protocol where you can take days 3 through 7, and I even asked my doctor if like switching that could make a difference, and she said she just wanted me to do 5 through 9 again because it did create 3 beautiful mature follicles last cycle. So the hope is that it will react really similarly this cycle with my body and create, you know, more than one follicle. Last cycle I didn't have any side effects with the Clomid. I know a lot of women do, so I will update you guys if I do have any new side effects. Last month the only thing I had was extreme thirst. It is currently cycle day 7, and I just took my 3rd Clomid pill, so I'm almost done with those. I am not having any side effects at all. I don't really feel like I'm taking anything, which is a good thing because some women really struggle with Clomid. It can have some really bad side effects, so I feel very lucky that it doesn't affect me in that way. The main reason for this phone call was to go over Alex's results. In my last video, a lot of the comments were asking whether we had had him tested as well. The bottom line is he's fine. Everything's fine. So it's definitely not that side of it. We now know that we can concentrate on me and that it's not him, because that was something that was just kind of like, until you get tested, you really just don't know. And so now my doctor's really focusing on things we can do to help me. So first thing is, last cycle, my follicles were really big at day 15. I had 2 at 30 millimeters and 1 at 25 millimeters. Once you start getting towards that 30 millimeter range, the possibility of that egg quality being good actually goes down, because it can turn into a cyst instead of a follicle. You want to see over an 18 millimeters, she was saying, for it to be a mature egg, but you don't want it to be so big that it gets too big. And what happened was, she thinks that I had those 2 really big, well, 3 big follicles, and then I didn't ovulate for 2 more days, and they grow every single day a couple of millimeters. So it's possible that by the time I ovulated, none of them were good anymore. They had all gotten too big. And so one thing we're gonna try this cycle is I am going to have a scan on day 14, And if my follicles are above 18 millimeters, we're gonna do a trigger shot. And that will basically force the LH surge, force my body to release those eggs. And that way they won't just be growing and growing for days on end and get possibly too big. I'm really happy with this plan because I feel like it's trying something a little bit different than last cycle. If the follicles are nice and mature by day 14, which based on the sizing of last cycle on day 15, they probably will be, I will have the trigger shot and that will be that. It almost simplifies things in a way instead of just waiting and taking those OPKs and waiting for your body to do it on its own. So that is the plan for this cycle. It's so hard for me not to just get so hopeful every cycle. I am such an optimist that I just feel like every cycle is going to be the one, and I just have a lot of hope. So yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, guys, it's day 14. I just had my scan and it didn't go very well. And you know, even before I went in there, I have been having a really rough time this cycle ever since the last clip I posted. And I was gonna go over it on this clip. I was hoping to have good news, and then I was still gonna talk about how I've just had kind of a rough cycle emotionally, but now it's like even worse because the cycle is not, it doesn't seem to be very promising. If you remember last cycle, I had 3 beautiful follicles, one at 25 millimeters and 2 at 30 millimeters. And this cycle, I have 3 tiny follicles on my right side. They're like 5, 6, and 7 millimeters. So they're not very promising. You want to see above an 18 for it to be a mature follicle. And then on my left side, I have 1 massive follicle that's 34 millimeters, and she actually thinks that it might be one of last cycle's 30 millimeters that didn't ovulate and is still there, in which case it might not even be viable. It might just be a cyst, and once they get over 30 millimeters, they are more likely to be cysts and not be viable follicles with eggs inside, as far as I can understand from what they told me. So my doctor's on vacation this week, which is totally understandable. It's the summer. I'm glad she's taking a vacation. So she wasn't actually there to go over my results with me. She is going to call in at 2:30, and it's currently, what time is it? 1:30. She's going to call the office, get the results, and then call me and tell me kind of what she thinks. The trigger shot, I'm assuming, is out of the question because that was, you know, hoping that my body kind of reacted similar to last time, and then in that case it would have been appropriate for a trigger shot. But it kind of seems like I don't have any viable follicles right now at all. She was able to see a few more small ones underneath the really big 34 millimeter one, so she has like, I have lots and lots of little follicles this cycle, which I know Clomid can do. It's one of the risks that you run with Clomid is that it can create lots and lots of eggs and none of them are viable. Last cycle just felt very textbook perfect. Like, there were very specific follicles at specific sizes, and this time it was just kind of a mess in there. So my lining is at a 12.2, which is really good. Last time it was at a 10, so it's even better than last time, but it just, yeah, it just doesn't seem promising. I'm kind of scared that this cycle might be a complete loss. Like, I might know. I might not have a single viable egg this cycle, and I was already having a rough time this cycle. So last cycle, I didn't have any side effects from Clomid other than thirst, which I talked about. And this cycle started off the same way, but then on my last day of Clomid, which was day 9, I started feeling really, really bad, both physically and emotionally. I was very quick to cry. I just felt very sad and very discouraged. And it even got to the point where on day 10, Alex actually asked me, like, do you think the Clomid's making you feel sad? Because he could tell that I just, like, wasn't acting myself. I also just felt terrible from days 9 through 12. And I'm feeling physically better now on day 14, but I still just feel very discouraged. And that was before I even got the news. It's almost like I had this gut instinct that this cycle just like wasn't going to be the one. But I will update you guys after I hear back from my doctor. I am just going to head on home. Okay, I just got off the phone with my doctor, and I have just been kind of laying here crying off and on. I'm so emotional, and it's not even just the results of today's scan. I've been feeling this way since cycle day 9. I am just having a rough time this cycle with my emotions and keeping everything even like I usually am. But she confirmed kind of what I was thinking, which is she doesn't want to do a trigger shot, and she's thinking that that big one is in fact a cyst and might not ovulate. She says there's a chance that it will, that there's an egg in there, and that, you know, we could get pregnant. So she wants us to treat the cycle as if we could get pregnant, and so basically continuing to do what we need to do on our end in order to get pregnant. It's kind of confusing because follicles with eggs and cysts are like the same thing. Like they look the same, and one can become the other. So a follicle with an egg could actually turn into a cyst if it gets too big. So it's hard to say like what it is, and it's also hard to say how long it's been there. If it is in fact a cyst and it's not going to ovulate, it could be inhibiting other follicles from ovulating on that side. And this cycle, I don't have any viable ones on my right side. Last cycle I had a 25 millimeter and it's gone now, so that one did ovulate last cycle, but this cycle I don't have anything on that side. I mean, I have those 3 like really little ones, but those she said might actually be growing for next cycle, so they might be like at the very beginning of their little lifespan, and they might be prepping for that to be my dominant ovary next cycle. I haven't gotten a positive OPK yet. It was negative this morning, so it could still actually be a few more days before that even happens. I will check in with you guys probably not until pregnancy test. It is cycle day 22, and it has been over a week since the last time that I updated you guys. You guys saw me on cycle day 14 after that scan, and I was having an incredibly hard time with the side effects of the Clomid, and also that scan not going very well, and just feeling very discouraged and defeated for this cycle. It has now been over a week, and I am feeling completely better both physically and emotionally, and I also have a much better grasp on what's happening during this cycle and had my hope restored for the cycle. So I thought I would go over all of that right now, kind of tell you guys where we're at now on 5 days past ovulation, because I did in fact ovulate, which my fear was that I wasn't going to this cycle. So when I went in for that scan on day 14, you know, they had said I don't have anything really going on my right ovary, and on my left ovary I had a massive 34 millimeter blob that they thought was probably too big to even have an egg in it, and it was probably a cyst, and there was even talk of it potentially having to be surgically removed if it was still there next cycle. Like, it was just, I walked out of that appointment and I was like, okay, so hold on, so I have no eggs this cycle, and I have the cyst, and I might have to have surgery, and I'm feeling awful on Clomid. Like, what is happening? You guys, I had a really rough night. I came home, I cried a bunch. I think I filmed an update that night. I'll have to look at my footage. I don't know if I'm gonna put it in, because I was just crying and talking about how defeated I felt. And I felt really, really sad that night. So I took an ovulation test, and it was a blazing positive. This was day 15. And then I did have a confirmed ovulation on day 17 with 3 high temperatures on days 18, 19, and 20. And it's still high now, but it only takes 3 to confirm that you did in fact release an egg. So all of that emotional sadness on day 14, you know, I didn't need to feel that way. I did in fact ovulate. I do have a chance of being pregnant this cycle. Of course, now I'm feeling all hopeful again. I'm currently 5 days past ovulation, so I won't be testing for another week, but I just wanted to get on here and kind of tell you guys that I'm feeling a lot better. The kind of really heavy negative side effects with Clomid went away a couple days after ovulation, and I've been feeling really great since. I am on progesterone again, 200 milligrams a night. That's everything for my update. I will be seeing you guys in a week for my pregnancy test reveal, and I'm already getting so nervous about it. I'm in that hard waiting period that I talked about last cycle. Days 5 through 9 at DPO, I think are the hardest days for waiting, and I'm on day 5 now, so I'm just starting to get that like really antsy feeling where I want to test, but it's like way too early, and there's no way that it's even possible to get a positive test this early, so I'm just like, just waiting. But for you guys, it will be like 2 seconds. For me, I have to wait a week, so lucky you guys. Do I look like a French fry right now? Be honest. My hair is being crazy. There's like tornado warnings outside. It's this whole thing today. So I have good news and bad news for you guys. The bad news is I was unable to do a pregnancy test for you this cycle because my period started a day early. And I think the reason that I was waiting so long to take the test is I just knew in my heart that this wasn't the cycle. I had a really hard cycle, both physically and emotionally. I would say it was the hardest trying to conceive cycle I've had ever. And I just had a really rough time. I was happy the cycle ended. I was ready to move on, and I'm glad that my period came a day early because I was just able to move on to the next cycle and just let this past cycle go. So you might be wondering, well, what's the good news? Because that's pretty bad news for a cycle vlog. The good news is I decided that I was just gonna go ahead and keep going with this vlog into cycle 15. So cycle 15 of trying to conceive baby number 2 is where I'm currently at, and I thought since I wasn't able to properly end last cycle vlog, I would go ahead and do a pregnancy test for this cycle vlog and just put it in one video. So currently I am 4 days past ovulation on the next cycle. I did do Clomid 100 milligrams this cycle. So last 2 cycles I did 50 milligrams. This cycle I did 100 milligrams, and I was extremely nervous to double my dose after having such a hard time with it last cycle. But my doctor explained to me that some women have really hard times with it some cycles and not others, and it's not necessarily based on the milligrams of Clomid you're taking. It's just some cycles are good and some are bad. So true to that, I have had the easiest cycle of all 3 Clomid cycles. I have had no side effects. I have felt great this whole time. I am currently 4 days past ovulation and I am feeling great. I've had no issues this cycle. I did take the Clomid days 5 through 9, so the same days, but double dose. And I decided to forego my mid-cycle scan with my doctor's permission because we didn't want to travel mid-month. We just wanted to be a little bit more relaxed and not have that traveling right in the middle of the important part of your cycle, and just kind of like chill out at our own house. We didn't do the mid-cycle scan, so I don't know how many follicles I have, and in a way that actually makes me less stressed, because chances are I have more than one. I did have more than one, both 50 milligram cycles, and this one was a 100 milligram cycle. Oh, I did want to tell you guys, so I actually had a lot of ovulation pain on my right side this cycle, and if you remember in this video, during last cycle when they did my scan, they saw those really tiny follicles on my right side and they were like, oh, that might be getting ready for your next cycle. Well, sure enough, I definitely ovulated on my right side. I might have also ovulated on my left side because Clomid can do that, but I know for sure I ovulated from my right side because I felt it. It was very obvious ovulation pains, which is not something that I get typically. I've experienced it before, but it's not like an every cycle thing for me. And I don't consider that a bad side effect because it just made me feel really good. Like I knew my body was doing what it needed to do. And sure enough, I got my temp rise, not the next day, but the next one, which sometimes it takes a day for your temperature to actually properly rise. So I ovulated sometime in that 24-hour span. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys that's new for this cycle, cycle 15, is my grandmother blah blah gave me a good luck bracelet. She has been telling me for months that I need to eat a lot of lettuce, that she knew someone one time who ate a ton of lettuce and then got pregnant with twins after having infertility for many, many years. She ate a bunch of lettuce and then she got pregnant with twins. So my grandmother's been all about the lettuce, and she gave me this bracelet and it's like lettuce green, and she was so excited about it. So I've been wearing it every day this cycle. It's my good luck charm, and we'll see if it works. Okay guys, it's time. It is either 11 or 12 days past ovulation. I'm not exactly sure when I ovulated. It was either one of those 2 days, because I think it was like somewhere at night. I don't know. Anyway, I'm really nervous and I wanted to wait one more day, but I also didn't want to risk my period coming early. My period is due either the night of 13 DPO or the day of 14 DPO. And like I said, I'm either 11 or 12. So anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm so nervous. My heart is pounding. I feel like this has been such a long video because it's been 2 cycles. And I'm just so nervous. Okay, so I'm gonna use a digital test this time. I have the first response 6 days sooner digital version. Last time I took a non-digital. Open this up. And I have my cup of pee here, but I'm not gonna show you. When it first comes up, you have to wait for the little like clock to show, which it's showing now. So I'm gonna dip this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm gonna set my timer on my phone for 3 minutes. I'm gonna cover this up so that I can't see it. And in 3 minutes, we'll look at it. Until then, I thought I would just tell you guys how I'm feeling. I don't have any side effects, or like I don't have anything that's making me think that I am, but I also am just so hopeful because I mean, I am every cycle except last cycle. Last cycle was a disaster from start to finish, but this has been a really good cycle and it just makes me really hopeful. And I'm like trying really hard to keep my emotions in because this just sucks. Everything about this sucks, but I mean, hope is beautiful, but it also can break your heart. I'm gonna look at it. I feel like I may throw up. It's negative. If any of you are going through infertility right now, I just want you to know that you're not alone, and it sucks. It is awful, but we will get through this and have the beautiful babies that we want, hopefully. So I'm sending all of you lots of baby dust if that's what you're wanting, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.